Lawmakers are putting their own stamp on Governor Corzines' $28.6 billion recessionary election year budget proposal. This as the legislation moves toward action by both houses on Thursday. A new 1.25% tax on health insurance premiums that emerged with the weekend introduction of the legislation would bring in $102 million for the cash-strapped spending plan. There's also language in the proposal that holds tuition increases at state colleges and universities to 3%. And pushes higher ed to invoke furloughs and other staff cutbacks. That language was inserted after colleges agreed to a 3% cap after avoiding proposed budget cuts of 5%. And lawmakers have also penned into the budget a provision that would allow the state comptroller to audit towns and cities that receive hundreds of millions of dollars in special state aid. That's something Republicans had been clamoring for. And while the budget bills cleared committees along party lines yesterday, there's still apprehension in Trenton among some lawmakers in the Democratic majority. That's especially true in the Senate. State House correspondent Zachary Fink is at the Capitol with the latest. And Zach, I understand you've found out there's plenty of horse trading happening behind closed doors, this just 2 days before the scheduled vote.
Well, Jim, a certain amount of wheeling and dealing is inevitable in any budget process, and that's certainly going on right now. The difference in this year's budget is that we've been told repeatedly there's just no money for anyone. We've been told that tax revenues are down in every major category, and that has made it less likely that lawmakers are going to get the money they want for their specific projects. However, NJN News has learned that there is quite a bit of deal-making going on behind the scenes.
Budget bills cleared the Senate and Assembly Budget Committees yesterday, setting the stage for full passage in both houses on Thursday. And while that fate is more secure in the Assembly, some insiders are wondering if it will be smooth sailing in the Senate.
Well, I think we have to always worry about making sure you get 21 and 41. We'll see on Thursday.
Senate President Dick Cody was unavailable for comment today, but Senator Jeff Van Drew has indicated he will vote against the budget. And yesterday, Senator Joe Vitale was the only Democrat to vote against it in committee. Since there are 23 Senate Democrats and there are 21 votes needed for passage, that leaves very little wiggle room. Last month, Majority Leader Steve Sweeney said the votes will be there in the end.
Listen, you could have 23 difficult Democrats when it comes to it because everyone's upset about this budget. At the end of the day, there'll be 21 votes. This is a bad budget, and there's no one can point to something that isn't sacred to them.
But sources tell NJN News that despite the seriously pared down budget, lawmakers are in fact holding out for last-minute dollars to fund their causes, and that is heightened by the narrow margin for error in the Senate. For example, sources tell us Senate Budget Committee Chairwoman Barbara Buono was able to get roughly $10 million restored for special education in the non-Abbott districts. That was based on a deal she had reached with the Republicans on a previous matter. But when that was accepted, sources say Assembly Speaker Joe Roberts insisted on getting another $10 million restored for adult education. Left out in the cold was Vitale, who has been trying to get funds restored for the Family Care Program, which provides health care for the working poor. The Corzine administration has essentially frozen the program from growing any bigger, and Vitale says that will prevent 20,000 people who need the family care coverage from getting it. Reached by phone, the Middlesex County senator said, quote, "Senator Cody has been very supportive. I have also reached out to the administration, and we are trying to resolve this matter." Critics say another bill, known as A4048, which passed the Assembly Budget Committee last night, will make it easier to cajole lawmakers. Democrats call that legislation an economic stimulus bill.
What we're seeing happening is that every time they seem to need to get a vote on the budget, they just keep adding a new branch to the Christmas tree.
Is it being used specifically to corral votes?
Oh, absolutely. And you can see it because it started out with just a couple of sections, and every time they need a vote, they seem to be adding another branch to the Christmas tree. So it has about 8 or 9 sections now, and we keep hearing it's going to get bigger and even more expensive, and it's going to cost taxpayers in the state billions of dollars.
So once again, Democrats are promoting that bill that Jeff Tittle was referencing, an economic stimulus bill. They claim that it will actually be good to spur the economy. Apparently, a version did not pass the Senate Budget Committee. I'm Zachary Fink, live outside the State House. Jim, back to you.
So, Zach, I want to be fair to you, and this might be a little like predicting the weather, but what does it look like for Thursday? A long night in store, or what do you think?
Well, Jim, that's certainly a possibility, and you certainly know from being on this beat as many years as you have been on this beat that you don't know until you're actually there. The last time I had seen a schedule, it was they were supposed to begin voting at about 10:30 in the morning, but this wild card here is the Senate, whether or not the Democrats will have everybody that they need. We'd also heard from some insiders that lawmakers Ron Rice and Shirley Turner had their doubts about voting on this budget. Of course, Shirley Turner is a member of the Budget Committee and did vote for it yesterday, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens.
All right, Zach, and as you know by now, that's 10:30 legislative or Trenton time. Thanks a lot.